Spring marked the first day of the new semester, and classroom changes were underway. Kuroki realized he was now sitting next to the notorious Chihara-san, the human landmine, as the teacher announced class was starting. Chihara-san's unique features, including doll-like skin and a sorrowful expression, gave off a dangerous aura, making her stand out in the classroom. Kuroki had never interacted with her before, only knowing her through rumors, and was amazed to see her up close. High school junior Kuroki viewed himself as plain and someone who didn't interact with girls, feeling that he and Chihara were from different worlds. He knew Mai Chihara was a common topic of conversation, recognized for being popular but also very dangerous. Kuroki was surprised to find himself so close to Chihara. Suddenly Chihara turned and looked directly at him, causing Kuroki to exclaim internally. He immediately worried if his stare had creeped her out. Chihara continued to look directly at Kuroki, who questioned if she was indeed looking at him. He wondered why she was looking at him. Kuroki worried if he had stared too much and inadvertently angered her, even though he had not meant anything by it. Kuroki found her stare incredibly terrifying, feeling as if he was being stabbed. He resolved to try apologizing to Chihara-san. Chihara continued to look directly at Kuroki. Kuroki was surprised by how direct her gaze was, noting she was looking right at him. Kuroki wondered what to do and what was up with this woman. He told himself not to give up, reassuring himself that it was not like he was going to die. He hesitantly addressed her as Chihara-san. Chihara leaned in very close, startling Kuroki with her proximity. As she leaned in, his gaze drifted downwards with a rustle. He felt it was an irresistible force drawing his attention. He rationalized that because she was so close, he accidentally looked down and happened to see them. Kuroki questioned what Chihara wanted with him and why he was in this situation. He wondered if this was a prank or some new form of bullying, feeling like he was being made fun of. Recalling the rumors, he worried if he was in danger of being trapped by her. Kuroki was panicking, thinking this must be what people meant by her being dangerous, and wished a more extroverted person could help him. He finally addressed her as Chihara-san as her hands reached for his shoulders. Chihara pulled Kuroki closer by his collar. She then whispered, asking to see his textbook. He offered his Algebra II textbook. Kuroki agreed to let her see it but mentioned that she was too close. Chihara took the textbook and thanked him with a small sound. Kuroki realized his back was soaked with sweat from the encounter. He then began to wonder if Mai Chihara was truly as dangerous as the rumors suggested. Kuroki admitted to himself that he still did not know anything about her and questioned if Chihara was really dangerous. Chihara then smiled and offered him a book, saying it was in return. Kuroki was confused but thanked her. He saw that she had given him a Japanese history textbook and wondered why. His confusion deepened when the teacher announced they would be learning about trigonometric functions, making him question the textbook choice. Kuroki reacted with shock to the mismatch. Kuroki struggled to understand Chihara, trying to figure out how to describe the situation. He found her actually kind of interesting, but then the teacher called on him to solve an example problem from page 15, while he was still thinking about the Edo shogunate from the history book she gave him. Kuroki noticed Chihara's sleeping face, which he found somewhat scary as she seemed to glare even then. Kuroki watched as Chihara-san stared intently at something, possibly her wrist. Then a subtle smile graced her lips, a sight that didn't go unnoticed by him. Nearby students whispered about Chihara's actions, finding her smile after looking at her wrist unsettling and reinforcing their belief that she was bad news. They found her dangerous and scary, and Chihara seemed to overhear their hushed, fearful comments. Kuroki mused that Chihara's appearance indeed matched the image the other students had of her, making it easy to imagine her capable of such behavior. The day continued, and after class his thoughts lingered. Suddenly Chihara-san approached Kuroki, reaching for something. Kuroki tensed up. She uttered his name softly, Chihara-san. Chihara presented a long strip of gum, holding it out. Kuroki was visibly surprised by the offering. Kuroki was bewildered, wondering what this meant. He questioned if Chihara was actually offering the gum to him. Without a word, Chihara tore open the gum wrapper. She then casually popped a piece into her own mouth, much to Kuroki's surprise. After chewing for a moment, Chihara looked at Kuroki. She then extended the gum towards Kuroki. He realized she was now offering it to him, a strange awareness dawning despite his confusion. Kuroki internally debated the situation, recognizing that taking the gum would be an indirect kiss. The thought made him feel gross and want to flee, yet he also considered that he should be happy, as this would be a first for him, even if he didn't fully grasp what was happening. Feeling he shouldn't refuse her offer, Kuroki agreed. Deciding not to overthink it, he said he would take a bite. As he chewed, Chihara stared at him intently. She then began to speak, mentioning something from long ago. Kuroki explained that long ago, he often ate gum in boxes of that size. He added that this particular gum had the same flavor, making it delicious and nostalgic for him. Chihara listened silently. Then she let out a slightly unsettling laugh, which Kuroki found scary. Kuroki offered to give Chihara the rest of the gum. She addressed him as Kuroki-kun, waved, and cheerfully said she would see him tomorrow. Blushing slightly, Kuroki acknowledged her goodbye. He thought to himself that Chihara was a somewhat interesting person. Elsewhere, Chihara uncapped a marker. Chihara smiled to herself as she wrote on her arm with the marker. It was her new semester wish list. Greet others was crossed out, while get along with the boy next to me was accompanied by a small flower doodle. After class, Kuroki reflected on how rapidly his school life was advancing. He felt there were many things he still wasn't used to, making it all feel unreal. Kuroki admitted to himself that he was often afraid of people with flashy appearances, feeling they might dislike him without reason. He acknowledged, however, that Chihara-san was more than what met the eye. Just then, Chihara-san appeared, greeting him. Kuroki asked Chihara-san what was the matter. She explained that she had seen him and was thinking they could go home together. Chihara-san added that she was waiting for him, which surprised Kuroki as it was in front of the men's restroom. Kuroki was slow to react, taken aback by her suggestion, and hesitantly asked if she meant with him. Chihara simply nodded in confirmation. After his initial surprise, Kuroki openly questioned why she would want to. His directness seemed to catch Chihara-san off guard. Chihara-san began to stagger away, seemingly flustered. Kuroki called out for her to wait. He then asked if she commuted by train, to which she affirmed. Kuroki mentioned that he also took the train and suggested they go to the station together. At this, Chihara-san looked visibly relieved. Chihara-san let out a sigh of relief. She then agreed they should go. Kuroki, observing her reaction, thought to himself that perhaps Chihara wasn't as scary as he had initially believed. As they walked, Kuroki asked Chihara-san if she rode a bike, noting that many people did so to get to the station. Chihara replied that she couldn't ride bikes, and Kuroki enthusiastically exclaimed that he couldn't either. He immediately regretted his overly familiar response. Chihara-san seemed amused by Kuroki's outburst, puffing her cheeks and appearing to think they were like close friends. Kuroki, flustered, quickly pointed out that she had also said she couldn't ride a bike. On their way home, an uncomfortable silence settled between Kuroki and Chihara. Kuroki felt he should say something to break the tension, as there seemed to be no topic to discuss. As Kuroki tried to think of something to say, Chihara suddenly gave him an intense glare. This made him wonder if she was super angry. Kuroki's plans to break the silence seemed to have failed, and he felt scared. Chihara then pointed towards something. She identified it as a big cat's butt. Kuroki questioned if it was really a cat. It turned out to be a large, round manju display outside a Japanese confectionery store. Chihara remarked that there were two cats piling on top of each other like good friends. Kuroki, puzzled, asked if her eyes were okay. He noted she wore colored contacts. Chihara confirmed there was no prescription on them. Putting on his own glasses, he realized they weren't cats at all. Chihara then put on Kuroki's glasses, much to his surprise. After a moment of realization, she took them off. She thanked him, and Kuroki nervously acknowledged her thanks. To Kuroki's surprise, Chihara was blushing intensely. Kuroki admitted that he also had trouble seeing it at first. She quickly apologized and told him to forget what happened. Kuroki found himself thinking Chihara was pretty cute. He quickly chided himself for the thought. Chihara reiterated that he should forget about it, and Kuroki, changing the subject, asked if she liked cats. They arrived at the station, and Kuroki mentioned he was heading to track 4. As he was about to leave, Chihara stopped him, rummaging in her bag. She pulled out a pen. She then asked him to hold out his arm, leaving Kuroki wondering what she was about to do. Chihara proceeded to write on Kuroki's arm. She revealed it was her chat ID, LoveCatMai. She explained that she wanted to talk to him outside of school too. Kuroki, waving goodbye, realized that she indeed liked cats. He was momentarily stunned by what had just happened. As Kuroki walked away, the realization sunk in. He had just gotten Chihara-san's contact information. Arriving home, Kuroki announced to his mom that he had gotten Chihara-san's contact info, and she congratulated him. A lively blonde girl with a lollipop in her mouth searched through the school corridors. She finally spotted Chihara from behind and exclaimed that she had found her. The blonde girl enthusiastically greeted Chihara, whom she called Mai, playfully grabbing her arm and asking what she was up to. She then invited Mai to come to her classroom, wondering if she was currently free. In a classroom, Chihara's friend Chinatsu Iwakura was painting Chihara's nails black, remarking that her previous nails were lame and instructing her to hold still. Chihara, looking somewhat dazed as her nails were painted, agreed with Chinatsu's assessment that black suited her well and was super cute. Chinatsu excitedly began to gush about her current boyfriend, telling Chihara how much he loved her. She explained he was the best, especially since she had recently ended another relationship, while Chihara remained still, her cheeks feeling itchy and her body unable to move. Chinatsu continued happily, emphasizing how incredibly sweet her boyfriend was and that he did not find her annoying at all. Chinatsu expressed her affection for Chihara, thanking her for always listening to what she had to say. Suddenly, Chinatsu noticed Chihara was bleeding from her mouth and asked with concern why she was bleeding, unaware Chihara had bitten her own cheek. After confirming the nails were perfectly done, Chinatsu asked Chihara if she could take a picture of them, and Chihara agreed. Chinatsu announced she would send the picture of Chihara's newly painted nails to her own boyfriend, planning to tell him that she had painted them. She boasted that her current boyfriend was the best and always read her messages quickly, offering to demonstrate this to Chihara. After sending the photo, Chinatsu's eyes widened in pleasant surprise as she saw the read notification appear almost instantly on her phone screen. Chinatsu triumphantly showed Chihara the quick response, exclaiming how great her boyfriend was for reading it so fast. Chihara then interjected, stating she wanted to ask Chinatsu something, to which Chinatsu readily agreed. With an intense stare, Chihara questioned why Chinatsu had sent the message containing the picture of her nails to her boyfriend. Chihara pressed further, asking if sending such things would genuinely make Chinatsu closer to her boyfriend, prompting Chinatsu to explain that it was because they both liked to know what the other was up to. Chinatsu looked thoughtful and a bit surprised by Chihara's pointed question. Chinatsu quickly agreed with Chihara's implied understanding of her relationship dynamics. Picking up on something, Chihara asked if there was someone Chinatsu wanted to get closer to, and Chinatsu eagerly nodded in confirmation. She then affectionately told Chihara that she was cute. In response, Chihara offered her help, suggesting she could pick out clothes, do her makeup, and continue painting her nails for her. Beaming, Chinatsu reassured Chihara that there was no need for her to worry and asked if her offer of help was okay. Chihara nodded, appearing reassured by her friend's positive reaction and support. Chinatsu then excitedly suggested they go pick out some clothes together after school, and Chihara agreed to the plan. Later, Kuroki was at home, contemplating watching a movie before bedtime when his phone chimed. He was surprised to see it was a chat notification from Chihara-san. Upon opening the message, he was utterly bewildered to find she had sent him a picture of udon, exclaiming his confusion about what it meant. Kuroki pondered how to respond, eventually deciding to tell her that he had deep-fried mackerel for dinner, though he felt unsure if it was an appropriate reply. After sending his message, he waited anxiously and jumped when his phone dinged with her quick response. He nervously checked his phone to see what Chihara had sent back. Looking at Chihara's reply, which included a cute cat sticker, Kuroki felt his own response had been well received. He found it amusingly humanizing that the mysterious Chihara-san ate something as normal and healthy as udon, though he felt a bit rude for having such a thought. Meanwhile, Chihara, looking somewhat dazed after their chat exchange, told herself to hurry up and take a bath. As Kuroki walks to school, he overhears two classmates discussing that Chihara girl, with one wondering if she's alright. One of the students remarks that it's easy to make assumptions about Chihara based on her appearance and actions. Kuroki overhears his friend noting that Chihara never seems to mind or deny the rumors, which makes them even more exaggerated. But Kuroki thinks to himself that Chihara-san isn't the type of person to cause trouble. Kuroki calls out to his friends, saying he'll follow them for a bit. Kuroki confidently tells his friends that he doesn't think Chihara-san is as malicious as they perceive her to be. As they walk, the students are confused and surprised to see Chihara falling off her bike on the way to school. Kuroki's friends confront him, asking what his previous comment was about and questioning his relationship with Chihara-san. One of them points out that it's extremely rare to hear Kuroki speak up, particularly about Chihara. They start to speculate if Kuroki and Chihara are involved in something secretive, an idea that makes Kuroki blush. Kuroki internally mulls over telling them about the gum Chihara gave him, but also considers that if he mentions they go home together, a weird rumor might spread. He then tells his friends that Chihara gave him a long one. His friends are taken aback, imagining Chihara presenting him with a sword as she says, "Here, take this." Kuroki explains that the long one was actually gum, which he found nostalgic and quite good, prompting a bewildered "what the hell" from his friends. One of his friends exclaims that he doesn't get it and asks what they are doing. Kuroki concedes that his friend might be right, as the friend insists that the two of them obviously aren't a match and it doesn't make sense. The friend elaborates that Kuroki is just a normal, perfectly ordinary introvert, whereas Chihara is the rumored Jurai girl, my Chihara. Kuroki reflects that his friends don't realize Chihara can be an airhead sometimes, giving off varied impressions. He then points towards Chihara, who is admiring some cats, and informs his friends that she likes butts. His friends are aghast at this revelation, especially as Chihara playfully touches Kuroki's behind. Kuroki laughs, remembering something, and tells them that one time Chihara wrote on his body with a marker, which he found incredibly funny. His friends are shocked, asking if she really writes on his body with a marker, as they imagine Chihara suggestively asking where she should begin writing while Kuroki looks flustered. Kuroki explains that he then understood that Chihara-san really likes cats. He reveals that Chihara had written "I love cats" on him, leaving his friends in a state of complete bewilderment. Kuroki's friends are depicted as lost in a cosmic void of confusion by his explanations. Kuroki, however, simply states that he thinks Chihara is just a funny person. He then turns to his bewildered friends and asks them what's wrong. His friends look at each other, one thinking and the other murmuring in agreement. One of them voices the thought that they should probably not ask about it anymore. Kuroki is stunned, exclaiming "why?" as he realizes his friends have seemingly decided that he is the worst at telling stories. Kuroki thinks about how he hasn't given Chihara anything in return for the soft candy gum she gave him. He feels he can't just give her nothing in exchange, but also worries that giving her something back might be considered gross. He then recalls hearing that Chihara-san often goes to the classroom next door during her breaks. A flashy girl in the classroom notices Kuroki and asks if he is looking for someone. Kuroki, slightly startled by her flashy appearance, stammers as he responds. He asks if Chihara-san, or Mai as the girl calls her, is present. The girl explains that Mai mentioned her head was hurting, so she went to the infirmary. After Kuroki leaves, the flashy girl wonders who that was, thinking he was acting like a middle schooler. Elsewhere, Chihara-san is in the infirmary, holding an ice pack to a bump on her head, which she got from the bike incident. Iguchi-sensei finishes treating Kuroki's head wound, reassuring him it wasn't deep despite the blood loss. She advises him to go to the hospital if he feels unwell, as Kuroki begins to recall the events that led to his injury. Kuroki remembers walking back to the classroom. He bumps shoulders with a large judo club member in the hallway. The impact sent him flying through a window. He was subsequently carried to the infirmary by the judo club member, observed by Iguchi-sensei. The judo club member apologizes profusely to Kuroki for his carelessness and offers his contact information. Iguchi-sensei then tells Kuroki, whose head is still spinning, to rest a bit more. Kuroki, while resting, debates going to his math class as Chihara-san peeks out from behind a curtain. After a moment, she peeks out again. He stands up, startled. Kuroki suddenly feels a presence. He dismisses it as imagination, but then Chihara-san quietly emerges from behind the curtain. Chihara-san startles Kuroki by suddenly appearing beside him and asking about his injury. Kuroki, heart-pounding, manages a flustered greeting. Kuroki explains his head injury to Chihara-san, assuring her it's minor and not a big deal. He further assures her it's no longer painful. She inquires if it hurts to touch as her hand moves towards his head. Chihara-san gently strokes Kuroki's injured head. This action causes him to blush. Her intense gaze remains fixed on him. A flustered Kuroki asks Chihara-san if she also came to the infirmary because she wasn't feeling well. She confirms, revealing a cat scratch. Just as Iguchi-sensei returns, calling for Kuroki and mentioning she spoke to his math teacher. When Iguchi-sensei enters, she wonders aloud if Kuroki has already left for the classroom. Meanwhile, Chihara-san quickly hides Kuroki behind the curtain, leaving him bewildered by her actions. Another teacher calls Iguchi-sensei away to the staff room. Once alone, Chihara-san emerges, startling Kuroki. She complains of a bump on her own head, which he then checks. She teasingly suggests he can hurt her back for her earlier touch, apologizing if she hurt him. Kuroki hesitates, clenching his fist. Chihara-san takes charge, pulling him onto the bed by his shirt. She then pushes him down, much to his surprise. Chihara-san peeks through the curtains at a bewildered Kuroki. She wishes him good night, and then closes them, leaving him alone and confused. Lying there, Kuroki understands Chihara-san was worried about him. However, her lingering scent and their recent interaction leave him flustered and unable to sleep, a stark reminder of his youth. The day begins with Chihara-san getting ready, meticulously brushing her teeth. She then proceeds to get dressed for school. As Chihara-san leaves, her father asks if she has everything, to which she confirms. At the train station, she notices people staring and wonders why. The whispers and questioning looks make sense when Chihara-san glances down. She realizes she has worn her flashy platform shoes instead of her normal school shoes. She briefly considers going home to change, knowing it would make her late. However, remembering an imaginary Chinatsu's advice to be fine with it, she decides not to worry. Upon arriving at school, a teacher immediately calls out to Chihara-san. Chihara-san braces herself, expecting a scolding for her inappropriate footwear. The new teacher insists she cannot wear something so flashy. The teacher acknowledges there might be a reason but reiterates the rule. Later, before the fourth period gym class, Chihara-san looks troubled. Another mishap, she realizes she packed the wrong, equally flashy jersey. This was a mistake made when she was dozing off while folding laundry. Imaginary Chinatsu's voice encourages her to stay calm and be confident, even if she made a mistake. Despite imaginary Chinatsu's reassurance that she'll be fine, Chihara-san's appearance in the flashy jersey draws stares in gym class. Later, she's in the staff office being reminded about school limits, indicating things didn't turn out well. During lunch break, Chihara-san has to write an apology letter. To make matters worse, she gasps upon receiving a text from her dad. He informs her that she forgot her bento. This leaves her with only a little pocket money for lunch. Consequently, Chihara-san resorts to eating umebo candy for lunch. Nearby students whisper, some thinking it fits her image or is a cool, unique habit. Despite the snack, she's still hungry when Kuroki spots her. Kuroki approaches Chihara-san, asking if she always eats only candy for lunch. He wonders aloud if it's really enough for her. He then apologizes for prying and offers her an onigiri. Kuroki explains that his mom made two, which is too much for him, and that it's leftover chicken rice from last night but still tastes good cold. He asks if she dislikes it. Chihara-san, looking touched, replies that she loves it. Chihara-san accepts the onigiri. As Kuroki eats, he thinks her onigiri tastes good for some reason. His gaze then drifts to her shoes. He finds them really cool looking. It describes a situation where one might feel alone on the first day of school and then become friends with a nice person sitting nearby. However, one might soon realize that this new friend is actually nice and talks to everyone, not just them. This situation is termed the "you're my only friend, but I'm not your only friend" phenomenon, often highlighted when students are instructed to get into pairs. In English class, the teacher announced that everyone should get into pairs to read a text together. As students began to pair up, Kuroki was called by other boys, one asking him to be his partner. Chihara turned with an intense expression, seemingly affected by the unfolding partner selections. This is an exaggerated depiction of how Chihara appears to others, emitting a deadly aura as students form pairs. Kuroki, concerned, approached Chihara-san and asked if she was okay. He then nervously suggested that perhaps they could be partners for the class activity. Kuroki explained that he had already gotten the worksheet from other guys, and it appeared they were all paired up without him, much to Chihara's surprise. Chihara seemed to react with a bright, almost relieved expression to his words. She then quickly told Kuroki that she was glad, after he asked if she had already paired up with someone. Kuroki was out shopping for a cake for his little sister's birthday, considering that his mom wanted cheesecake, his little sister Mont Blanc, and his dad a strawberry tart due to their different tastes, when he noticed someone familiar. He was surprised to see it was Chihara-san outside of school. Kuroki immediately backed away, debating whether to call her name and ultimately deciding not to interfere with her private life. He reasoned that she might be meeting up with someone. He resolved to go back to his errands. Suddenly, Chihara appeared and asked Kuro if he had some time. Before Kuroki could properly react, a cameraman approached Chihara asking if he could take some pictures of her. Chihara readily agreed and posed, though the cameraman then asked her to stop posing. Kuroki reflected that with his budget, he was only able to buy a 100 yen cream puff for himself. He spotted Chihara-san again. Noticing she was alone, he thought about just greeting her for now. However, his attention was then captured by a small child sobbing and calling for her mother. Chihara approached and asked the little girl where she had last seen her mother, to which the girl tearfully replied, "At the bookstore." Chihara recognized it was a lost child and, despite some hesitation, wanted to help her. She recalled that her fierce eyes had made kids cry in the past, causing her some concern. Kuroki reassured the little girl who was eating the cream puff that they were in a commercial district and her mom must be fine and nearby. Chihara appeared very close to them, surprising Kuroki. The little girl then exclaimed that it was Lovely Warrior, and Chihara affirmed, "Yes, I'm Lovely Warrior." Chihara explained to the little girl that she was just an average fan of Lovely Warrior, noting that Lovely Warrior's hair is actually pink, unlike her own. Kuroki wondered what Chihara was doing, as she also mentioned to the girl that she was a second-grade high schooler when asked her age. Chihara then helpfully pointed out that there was a police station right over there. Kuroki wondered if Chihara had been watching the entire time and guessed she came to help him. Soon after, the little girl was reunited with her mother, and they waved goodbye, thanking Kuroki and Chihara profusely. Kuroki thanked Chihara, admitting he hadn't known how to deal with the situation himself. Kuroki confessed to Chihara that he felt he wasn't very reliable. The girl Chihara was holding then asked what she was doing. Chihara firmly told Kuroki, "Yes, you are," reassuring him. As they continued, Chihara asked Kuroki how his day was, and he replied that he had gone to a cat cafe, to which she responded, "I see." During lunchtime, Kuroki noticed Chihara-san in the classroom, seemingly surprised by her presence. She then lifted her neatly wrapped bento, preparing to eat. Kuroki reflected that it was rare for Chihara-san to remain in the classroom during lunchtime, noting he had never seen her take out a bento before. He also recalled she was usually with someone else, and an aside noted she is alone when Chinatsu is absent. As they both sat at their desks, Chihara clicked open her bento and Kuroki also prepared his. Kuroki revealed he had invited Chihara-san to eat lunch together for the first time. He explained he chose the rooftop terrace to avoid any weird looks from others. Chihara-san, holding her chopsticks, then asked if this arrangement was too much trouble for him. Kuroki commented on the pleasant weather, and Chihara agreed it felt nice outside. He then confessed his difficulty in inviting people, and expressed gratitude for Chihara-san having talked to him. Chihara-san explained she wanted to return the favor for his kindness. As she spoke, she unfortunately dropped her chopsticks. The chopsticks clattered away, landing out of reach. Kuroki observed that her chopsticks were gone. Chihara-san calmly stated she would eat with her hands, which surprised Kuroki. Concerned, Kuroki offered her his own unused chopsticks. Chihara-san asked if Kuroki was alright with eating with his hands, offering her chopsticks and suggesting he return them when done. She added that he would have to eat quickly as she is a quick eater. She then proposed they take turns eating, which caught Kuroki by surprise. Kuroki gasped, suddenly realizing that sharing chopsticks this way would be like an indirect kiss, and questioned if it was truly acceptable. Kuroki internally debated whether flipping the chopsticks might hurt her feelings, or if he was just overthinking things. He reasoned that Chihara-san probably wouldn't mind such details. While he was lost in thought, Chihara-san reached over and took some food from his bento, causing Kuroki to lament his poor handling of the situation. As Chihara-san began to eat from his bento, Kuroki asked in surprise what she was doing. She continued to munch on the foods thoughtfully. Meanwhile, Chihara-san was imagining a scenario where Kuroki cheerfully declared them best friends while taking food from her. Kuroki asked if Chihara-san had made a mistake, and she admitted she had messed up communication-wise. She poked at her bento, which Kuroki noted contained a lot of brown food. Chihara-san then offered Kuroki a piece of her tamagyaki to his surprise. Chihara-san remarked that Kuroki's tamagyaki tasted sweet and weird to her. Kuroki explained his mother's recipe, which differed from Chihara's family's probable dashi tamagyaki, and Chihara mused about her father's cooking. Chihara then mentioned that her father makes amurus when in a good mood, though her bento is always small, a fact that seemed to impress Kuroki. Chihara-san then unexpectedly invited Kuroki to try her father's amurus at her place. Kuroki was visibly shocked and speechless at the thought of going to her house. Internally, Kuroki panicked, feeling he had no right to go to her house so casually, yet he didn't want to refuse her offer. Overwhelmed, he blurted out that he actually didn't want to, then immediately tried to retract his statement and apologized for his mistake, leaving Chihara-san looking confused. After class, they arrived at coffee shop Genki, which Chihara-san revealed was her father's shop, explaining that this was where she wanted him to try her father's amurus. At 7 a.m., Chinatsu energetically arrives at Mai's place, announcing she came to play, finding Mai still drowsy. Chinatsu clarifies her plan. Today she is going to make Mai wear clothes and do her makeup, as they regularly meet up like this and go all out, to which Mai questions if go all out is appropriate wording. Chinatsu offers Mai an energy drink, teasing her about being late to the party, though the narrator notes she was not late at all. After an intense sip, Mai agrees, saying all right to Chinatsu. Mai then announces she's going to brush her teeth and wash her face, asking Chinatsu to wait. After preparing, Mai applies a face mask, stating it needs to be left on for 15 minutes. Chinatsu instructs Mai to stay still like a mannequin and not take the mask off early, while Mai quietly agrees. Chinatsu meanwhile rummages through her supplies, pondering what she should make Mai wear first. Chinatsu shows Mai 2 outfit options on her phone, asking for her opinion on which is better. Mai, with her face mask still on and looking rather spaced out, replies that both look nice but then chooses the more intense one. Chinatsu decides she will use these items as accessories. Once Mai is told she can take off her face mask, her skin appears sparkly and refreshed. Chinatsu announces she will heat up the curling iron. The makeup session then commences. Chinatsu triumphantly declares the first look complete, gushing over how cute Mai is, admiring her big eyes, comparing her to a soft porcelain doll and eagerly announcing next. Chinatsu continues her enthusiastic praise, telling Mai she looks like a doll's descendant and that her compliments are making Mai blush, before once again calling for the next look. For the subsequent transformation, Chinatsu exclaims that Mai's cuteness is out of this world and dramatically announces, "Now the finale." With a dramatic babem, the final look is revealed and Chinatsu screams about how incredibly cute Mai is. After the makeover session, Chinatsu sighs with satisfaction, remarking to Mai how fun it was, and Mai quietly agrees. Chinatsu laments that a typhoon prevented their usual outing but is happy with Mai's cute transformation, expressing a desire for everyone to know they are friends. Chinatsu suggests they do this again, promising to put in more effort next time and proposes meeting sometime after noon. Later, Kuroki sees a photo of Chihara-san from the makeover and is struck by her impressive look, comparing it to something one would see on a magazine cover. Some students whispered amongst themselves about Chihara-san, one mentioning she felt like a doll and seemed cold to the touch, guessing her body temperature was low. Meanwhile, Kuroki shivered, remarking to himself that it was a cold day. Kuroki shivered from the cold wind blowing in through the window, wondering if anyone else minded or if he was just sensitive to the cold. He thought to himself that he should have worn a sweater. Suddenly, he noticed Chihara-san closing the window. Relieved, Kuroki wondered if Chihara-san had also felt cold and was grateful she had closed the window, assuming she did it for him. The sound of the chime echoed through the classroom. Chihara-san suddenly appeared beside Kuroki, calling his name and startling him. She then reached out and grabbed his face with both hands. Kuroki was completely taken aback by her actions. Kuroki was surprised by the warmth and softness of Chihara-san's hands against his skin. He gasped, flustered by the unexpected contact. Other students in the classroom started to whisper, wondering if Chihara-san and Kuroki were going to kiss, while one girl pointed out that everyone was watching them. Chihara-san calmly stated that Kuroki seemed cold. Kuroki was surprised that she had noticed he was cold when she closed the window. Chihara-san then took out a blanket from her bag, offering it to him. She explained that it was a gift she did not use, which made her feel less inclined to use it. With a sharp look, Chihara-san warned Kuroki that he would catch a cold if he did not use the blanket. The teacher entered the classroom, announcing that class was about to start and instructing everyone to take their seats. The teacher also asked whoever was near the window to close it. Chihara-san, looking satisfied as Kuroki wore the blanket, then told him he looked pretty cute. Kuroki, while appreciative, found the compliment quite embarrassing. Kuroki sighed, feeling the exhaustion of a long week and noting it was time to go home, just as Chihara-san appeared beside him, calling his name. He observed that recently, Chihara-san had developed a habit of waiting for him after school. Kuroki mused that Chihara-san sometimes walks home with another friend, but that friend is often busy and has many other friends. He found it a bit peculiar that she would choose to walk with him, even if he was just a backup plan. Suddenly, he was startled as Chihara-san reached out towards him, exclaiming in surprise. Chihara-san explained she was just wondering if Kuroki was hungry, prompting him to ask how she could tell just by touching him. She then casually asked if they should go, surprising Kuroki. Kuroki imagined that someone as flashy as Chihara-san would indulge in a fancy after-school tea break. He pictured her having a tapioca milk tea laden with fresh cream. However, Chihara-san revealed she simply brings a 100 yen coin. She then explained she picked something from the convenience store, leading Kuroki to compare her to an elementary schooler immediately spending their pocket money. At the convenience store, Chihara-san hesitated at the snack aisle before deciding on something for the day. She chose convenience store chicken. She mentioned to Kuroki that it is super crunchy and crispy, asking if he had had it before, to which he replied no. She then added that she would not normally eat meat like this as a snack by herself, but since she was with a friend, she felt like eating it. Chihara-san took a satisfyingly crunchy bite of the chicken. After wiping her mouth, she noticed some oil still on her finger and licked it off, an action that caused Kuroki's heart to skip a beat as he blushed. He asked if she had any napkins and offered to check for some. Chihara-san then asked if he had one and gestured for him to wipe her face. Kuroki was mortified, thinking how embarrassing it would be to do such a thing, even for family or a neighbor. Reluctantly, Kuroki agreed to wipe her face. He gently wiped Chihara-san's face. Internally, he lamented that he could not do it properly, while Chihara-san encouraged him to rub it more. He wondered why she seemed rather pleased by the situation as she asked if her face looked okay now. As Chihara-san prepared for another bite, Kuroki looked on. He tentatively suggested that perhaps it would be better if she wiped her own face after eating, but Chihara-san paused, looking puzzled. She seemed not to understand his implication, much to Kuroki's exasperation. At Chihara's house, which also serves as coffee shop Genki, Mai's father calls for her. He asks Mai to take some fruit to their neighbor, Matsumoto-san, as an exchange for recently received vegetables, and Mai agrees. As she takes the fruit, her father adds that he has news about what Matsumoto-san did. The news is that Matsumoto-san got a cat, which piques Mai's interest. Later, Mai, dressed in her middle school jersey, walks down the street. She passes by a pet supply store. Mai arrives at Matsumoto-san's apartment, holding cat toys, and Matsumoto-san welcomes her, acknowledging the presence of the kitty. Mai presents the fruit, explaining it is for the vegetables, and Matsumoto-san thanks her. Inside, Matsumoto-san thanks Mai and offers to bring tea and sweets, telling her to wait. While waiting, Mai eagerly looks around for the cat. Soon, a small paw steps into view. A white cat appears, looking curious. Mai's intense gaze seems to startle the feline. The cat becomes scared and backs away. Mai tries to entice it by throwing a toy, but the cat remains wary. The cat cautiously inspects the toy Mai threw. As Mai gets closer, the cat remains scared. They end up in a staring contest. Mai slowly unzips her hoodie. Just then, Matsumoto-san returns with tea and sweets, exclaiming in surprise. Matsumoto-san observes that Mai and the cat seem to have gotten along well, and Mai confirms this, cradling the cat inside her hoodie. Matsumoto-san mentions she only got the cat yesterday, and Mai agrees it is very docile. Mai adds that the cat is cute and warm. Matsumoto-san admits she has not named the cat yet, and asks Mai if she has any cute name suggestions. The cat rustles within Mai's hoodie, and Mai stares thoughtfully at it. The next day at school, Mai is humming cheerfully, and Kuroki notices her good mood. Kuroki greets her, and Mai returns the greeting. Kuroki then asks if something good happened. Chihara leans closer to Kuroki, making him a bit nervous, and shows him something on her phone. She shows him a picture of a cute white cat, explaining that her next-door neighbor recently got it, and Kuroki asks for its name. Chihara replies that its name is Kuro, leading Kuroki to question why. Mai commented to Chihara that their class was pretty lively, with everyone in high spirits, as a male student excitedly announced he had bought something for them to try. Chihara wondered if something was going to happen, while Mai thought it might be a recent trend. The item in question was revealed to be Russian cream. The game involved taking a cream puff and putting in mustard, wasabi, Tabasco sauce, or similar spicy condiments. Mai told Chihara that she actually wanted to enjoy her cream puffs normally, and asked if Chihara had played this game before. However, Mai mused that if she somehow ended up joining, she would be really happy if her crush were to eat one instead of her, wondering if that would make him happy. Mai mentioned that if her crush wasn't there at the time, she would eat it by herself though. She then announced she was going to prepare for her next class and waved goodbye. Chihara thought to herself that Mai found it fun but was afraid of her mouth hurting, just as Kuroki was called out. A couple of male classmates approached Kuroki, asking why he wasn't joining them for Russian cream puffs. One student explained that the altered cream puff had mustard, wasabi, and Tabasco sauce in it, to which Kuroki asked if they had put in all of them. Another student admitted they kind of wanted to see Kuroki in pain because he always has a certain expression, while a third thought that if they were lucky, this would happen. Kuroki, surprised, asked if they would really do it. It was explained that only 2 cream puffs were left, and one of them was altered. Kuroki, impressed by their honesty, agreed to play but wanted to make sure they weren't trying to troll him, while the others insisted they were just curious and asked him to believe them. Suddenly, Chihara stepped up and announced she would take one piece, causing Kuroki to react with an astonished "A." Kuroki looked at Chihara in disbelief, questioning her action. The classmates reacted with a collective "A" as Chihara took a puff. Chihara began to eat the cream puff, while one of the girls watched her, sweating nervously. A male classmate looked on in disbelief as Chihara blushed slightly but continued to eat. She took a large bite, her expression remaining neutral. The group watched intently as Chihara continued to chew. Kuroki looked at Chihara with a questioning gaze as she finished chewing, her expression unreadable. The other classmates let out a collective sigh of relief, assuming that it wasn't spicy and didn't hurt. Kuroki then took the remaining cream puff and ate it, exclaiming in surprise as he realized it must be the altered one. A female classmate, noticing his pained expression, hesitantly asked if he was okay. Kuroki explained to the concerned classmate that it tasted like custard, wasabi, mustard, and Tabasco sauce, admitting it wasn't good but that he was fine. Chihara then gasped, admitting she didn't think anyone would want to eat the altered cream puff, so she didn't want to waste it. The entire class then began apologizing, with one saying they were sorry for trying to pull a trick and another for not reading the atmosphere. Kuroki and Chihara looked at each other, with Kuroki uttering a questioning, "Eh." Suddenly, Chihara jumped towards Kuroki, causing him to exclaim her name in surprise. The classmates immediately started speculating, with some saying they were definitely going to kiss, while others wondered if it hurt, though one noted it didn't seem to. Chihara simply smiled and stated that she was glad. Kuroki hesitated for a moment, then addressed Chihara. He informed her that she had a little bit of sauce on her right hand. Chihara then exhibited a strong reaction, described as a flame in response, causing Kuroki to cry out her name in alarm. Kuroki, enjoying his day off, wandered the streets wondering what to eat. He noticed an alley he frequented but had never explored, spotting what appeared to be an open Chinese-style restaurant. The restaurant seemed to specialize in Chinese food, with gyoza and fried rice advertised, so he decided to take a look inside. Inside, Kuroki observed that the initially empty restaurant had suddenly filled with people. They all seemed to be talking to each other, and Kuroki wondered if they all knew one another. He overheard conversations suggesting they were meeting in person for the first time, thanking each other for their online interactions. Kuroki, still pondering the chances of an in-person meeting happening at a Chinese restaurant, received his order of super spicy mapo tofu. He decided he would just eat and go home, as he was pretty far away. Just as he was thinking this, the door opened, and to his utter surprise, Chiharasan walked in, greeted by the others. Kuroki was bewildered by Chiharasan's presence, though he acknowledged it wasn't inherently weird for her to be in a restaurant. He wondered why everyone was welcoming her so enthusiastically, with one person exclaiming that everyone was waiting for her. People were even asking to take pictures with her. He couldn't understand the connection between a Chinese restaurant, an in-person meeting, and Chiharasan as his food arrived. Chiharasan herself seemed to be wondering what in the world was happening. Chiharasan calmly ordered one gyoza. The surrounding crowd immediately echoed her request, exclaiming, "One gyoza, please." Kuroki, observing this, was even more confused, questioning why everyone was repeating her order. They then burst into applause. He wondered why they were applauding. Kuroki, who had initially planned to leave after eating, found himself too curious about the situation to depart, even as he ate. Soon, Chiharasan's gyoza was served. With everyone watching, Chiharasan politely said "itadakimasu" before eating. She lifted a gyoza with her chopsticks and brought it to her mouth. She then took a thoughtful bite. The restaurant fell silent as everyone awaited Chiharasan's verdict. Someone mentioned this was her 23rd time exploring a well-known restaurant and asked for her thoughts. Chiharasan then delivered a detailed and articulate review of the gyoza, describing its balance, nutritional value, and the mesmerizing experience of eating such a simple yet well-crafted dish, leaving Kuroki quite perplexed by her eloquence. A fan then asked Chiharasan for her recommended way of eating gyoza. She explained that gyoza is perfectly delicious on its own and should be tried without any additions first, a method she highly recommended. Kuroki was astounded to hear Chiharasan speaking so extensively, as one of her fans expressed joy at hearing Gyoza Pakupaku's review in person. Kuroki began to suspect this gathering was a gyoza fan club. He realized that Chiharasan, with her commanding presence and knowledge, was their icon, as another fan expressed gladness that she also liked gyoza. Kuroki was flabbergasted, admitting this was the first time he was hearing about any of this. He had never imagined this side of Chiharasan. She seemed entirely accustomed to the attention, nodding when someone asked to take her picture. She even obliged when asked to pose holding a large gyoza plushie. Kuroki wondered if anyone at school knew about this, as she had never mentioned it, nor had he heard anyone else talk about it. Kuroki mused that if no one else knew, he felt somewhat honored to be the only one privy to this secret. He quickly dismissed the thought, wondering what he was thinking. The next day at school, he curiously asked Chihara-san what her favorite food was. She simply replied, "Nehachi soba." The teacher announced that Monday would be a holiday, meaning a 3-day weekend for the students. Kuroki pondered his plans, initially thinking of playing games and sleeping. He then considered doing something more typical for a high schooler, like going out to play, and wondered who to invite. Chihara-san briefly crossed his mind, but he quickly dismissed the thought, believing they weren't close enough for that. Just before this, Chihara-san had been staring intently at Kuroki. Her friend Chinatsu noticed and asked if Chihara-san wanted to invite a friend to play, to which Chihara-san simply nodded. Chinatsu encouraged Chihara-san to invite them. Chihara-san admitted she didn't know what to say but wanted to play, as she wasn't used to inviting people. Chinatsu suggested simply asking when they were free, then confirmed they were Chihara-san's friend. Suddenly, Chinatsu realized with surprise that the friend Chihara-san wanted to invite was not a girl. Chihara-san nodded, confirming her friend was indeed a boy. Chinatsu understood this meant Chihara-san couldn't afford to be rejected. Determined to support Mai, Chinatsu resolved to be there for her, imagining a scenario where she helps Mai succeed. Excitedly, Chinatsu told Mai to come to her place before inviting him, promising to ensure everything went well. Back in the present, Kuroki received a text from Chihara-san asking him to meet her at the station later and to wait for her. He was quite confused by the message. Chihara-san then darted out of the classroom with surprising speed. Kuroki, puzzled by her actions, wondered what she was planning. He then made his way to the station. Kuroki waited at the station as Chihara-san had asked, feeling a mixture of excitement and embarrassment. He reflected that he seemed to be following her commands a lot lately. He found it difficult to predict Chihara-san's actions or understand her thoughts, and her flashy appearance sometimes made approaching her intimidating, cautioning himself to be wary. Just then, Chihara-san called out his name. Chihara-san approached, now sporting pigtails, and apologized to Kuroki for making him wait. Kuroki was visibly flustered by Chihara-san's new hairstyle. He stammered as he asked about her hair and where she planned to go. Chihara-san, perhaps misinterpreting his reaction, apologized if he wasn't curious about her appearance and said he could go on with his own plans, though she then awkwardly complimented his looks. Kuroki found talking with Chihara-san to be a strange experience. He wasn't sure why, but her willingness to change her hairstyle for him and the fact she wanted to meet up felt nice, even if he didn't understand her reasons. However, he also felt that having such thoughts about her might be somewhat rude. Kuroki reflected on how their unusual dynamic began from the time he first felt afraid of her. He mused that even if their current friendship was based on a misunderstanding or wasn't entirely genuine, he was glad it had happened and felt he was maturing through these experiences. Chihara-san then called his name, snapping him out of his thoughts. Chihara-san poked Kuroki's cheek, asking if he could hear her. He complained that her nail was scratching him. She apologized, then asked if he needed anything from her, to which he countered by asking if she needed something. Chihara-san then stated directly that she wanted to see him, even on days when they didn't have school. Following her previous statement, Chihara-san then asked Kuroki if he was free on the weekend. Kuroki was completely taken aback, rendered speechless by her question. Kuroki was so stunned by Chihara-san's invitation that his mind went completely blank. His mind hilariously short-circuited to the point where he internally questioned the very concept of a weekend. Chihara-san stared at him, wondering if his dumbfounded reaction was serious. On the current day, following Chihara's invitation to hang out during the 3-day weekend, Kuroki found himself incredibly nervous. His heart pounded with nervousness, feeling like he was in an alternate reality as he wondered what was happening. He tried to reassure himself it was not a date, though he admitted to carefully checking his appearance beforehand. Kuroki noted how different it felt meeting Chihara outside of school. He tried to calm his nerves by imagining it was all an elaborate prank. Just then, Chihara called his name and appeared, apologizing for making him wait. Kuroki was momentarily stunned by Chihara's appearance, stammering that he hadn't waited long. He thought that while he had seen her in casual clothes before, this was something else, making him wonder if he was really going to walk next to someone who looked so good. He tried to dismiss his self-consciousness, thinking he probably just looked like a mascot character. As they began to walk, determined not to seem tense, he asked how she got there, and Chihara replied that she took the train. Kuroki paused, wondering if Chihara had any plans for their outing. Deciding to take the initiative, he asked her if there was anywhere specific she wanted to go. Chihara's surprised expression suggested to him that she likely had not made any plans. Kuroki suggested they just walk around, and Chihara nodded in agreement. Their walk led them to the Cat Cafe Wild, but a sign indicated it was closed for the day for cat health checks. Kuroki lamented that this was bound to happen since they had not planned anything, feeling it was perhaps a punishment from the god of planning. Seeing Chihara's dejected look, he quickly suggested they go somewhere else. Kuroki then proposed going to the cinemas. However, upon trying to buy tickets, they discovered that only a few undesirable seats were available. Chihara, looking quite depressed, suggested they should just leave and try somewhere else. They found that other places like cafes and restaurants were also very crowded, leading Kuroki to realize he had underestimated how busy weekends could be. Suddenly, Chihara grabbed his arm, startling him, and he quickly asked what was the matter. Chihara let out a small cry as something happened to her foot. Chihara explained that her shoe had broken while they were walking, so Kuroki, concerned, suggested they find somewhere for her to sit. They soon found a park. Kuroki asked her to wait on a bench for a moment. When Kuroki returned, he was surprised to find Chihara gone from the bench. Her broken shoes were still there. He wondered if she could be inside the nearby playground equipment. Kuroki called out to Chihara, asking if she was there. From inside the play structure, Chihara apologized, sounding dejected, saying their outing was not fun for him. She explained that she hadn't prepared anything even though she had invited him, and now, with her broken shoe, she felt depressed and unable to even make it home. Kuroki reassured Chihara that it was not her fault. He admitted he also had not really done anything that day and emphasized that despite everything, he was still genuinely happy she had chosen to invite him to hang out. He then gently encouraged her to please come out. Chihara slid out from the play structure. Kuroki then surprised her by announcing he had shoes for her. He presented a new pair of sandals. He explained he'd bought them considering her taste, adding they weren't expensive and nervously apologized if she didn't like them. Chihara let out a soft giggle and then smiled brightly. Immensely relieved that she smiled, Kuroki agreed and suggested they get some candied strawberries and head home. She told Kuroki that the health sandals were nice. Kuroki reflected that although the weekend was somewhat messy, it had been a really good one. He acknowledged it was time to return to the routine of school life. Back in class, he found himself unable to shake off thoughts of the weekend and Chihara. He likened his lingering feelings to the inability to forget a wonderful vacation. He specifically recalled Chihara's smile, noting it was the first time he had seen her smile like that. He wondered when he might see such a smile from her again. However, he quickly chided himself, thinking he shouldn't be imagining such things. Kuroki mused that the entire weekend felt like a dream now that he thought about it. He considered that this kind of thing didn't seem like it would happen often. He worried that if he were to talk about that day with Chihara-san, she might respond as if she didn't know what he was talking about, making him question if it was all a dream. However, his reverie was broken as he realized he was now with Chihara, standing before a coffee shop. Even if it had been a dream, he cherished the memory, thinking it was a really nice one before snapping back to reality. Kuroki was suddenly startled, exclaiming and wondering where they were and since when they had arrived. Chihara calmly informed him that it was her house, while Kuroki continued to wonder why he was there. She then clarified that they had walked home together and she had invited him to have some tea, though Kuroki was still processing this information. Kuroki recognized they were in the coffee shop and immediately recalled an embarrassing misunderstanding from their last encounter there. Chihara explained that it was her dad's shop, more of a hobby, and that he was currently out as the shop was closed for the day, while Kuroki thanked her for the invitation, noting it was very relaxing. He then asked if she was sure it was okay for him to be there, and nervously considered what he should say if he happened to run into her father. Chihara, confirming it was fine, then offered to make some coffee and asked him to wait a bit, to which Kuroki gratefully agreed. Kuroki was impressed, thinking Chihara was amazing for grinding the beans herself and guessing she learned by watching her dad. Chihara thanked him for waiting and presented him with a freshly brewed cup of coffee. Chihara mentioned that she doesn't usually drink coffee like this, so she was happy. Kuroki then announced he would start drinking. Kuroki initially commented that the coffee smelled good. However, he quickly realized it was actually odorless. He wondered aloud to Chihara if perhaps his nose was clogged or something similar. Deciding it was time to drink, he took a sip. His eyes widened in a dramatic, unspoken reaction to the taste. The coffee induced a strange vision for Kuroki, where he saw peculiar creatures in a field. The vision escalated to include a UFO abducting the creatures. He told Chihara he thought he could see other worlds, and she asked if that meant the coffee was good. Kuroki confirmed that it was good and he wanted to keep drinking, to which Chihara replied that was good, since she made it using only her intuition, a fact Kuroki found impressive. Chihara explained that the coffee was meant as an apology for before, but then trailed off. Kuroki wondered what she meant by but. She then walked away from the counter, and Kuroki momentarily thought she had left entirely. He quickly realized she had just left the counter area. To his surprise, Chihara then sat down right next to him. Kuroki was surprised that Chihara was continuing their conversation while sitting so close to him, as she simply stated again. She then expressed her desire to hang out with him again sometime, admitting she would feel lonely if their interaction simply stopped there. A flustered Kuroki asked if that was okay with her. Chihara affirmed if he was okay with someone like her, leading him to realize their connection wasn't a dream and they had indeed gotten a little closer. Later, after Kuroki had gone home, Chihara's father returned, asking what the coffee was. He asked Mai if she had made coffee because her friend had come over. He then decided he would have a taste. Upon tasting it, he immediately spat it out, exclaiming that it was horrible as Chihara